Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now consider the estimates of the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning. Does the Honourable Minister have an opening statement?
I do.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning, I am so pleased to be here today for this committee meeting to discuss the estimates for the 25-26 fiscal year. Before I get started with my opening statement, I just want to say a quick thank you to all of the committee room support staff that are here today helping us. It's important work that you all do, and we appreciate you keeping us on time and on task and watered and answered and all the rest. So thank you very much for your work. And also thank you so much to the department staff. We have some amazing staff from the department here assisting and supporting us today, but also to all of the staff that work in the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning. Thank you so much for all of the work that you did in putting together this year's budget estimates. And there's something we can really be proud of. So thank you so much for your work. I value and thank each and every one of you. So when it comes to education, our government is turning the page. We are making record investments in education funding so that students can receive the supports they need in the classroom. Over the past 2 years, we've increased funding by over $170 million, and that includes $30 million for our Universal Nutrition Program. This year alone, we announced another robust and healthy funding increase of $67 million, or a 3.6% lift. We understand the importance of quality education for all Manitoba students and its impact on the province overall, and we will continue to strive to provide school divisions with predictable and stable funding that keeps pace with enrollment and addresses students' needs. As our Premier has said many times, and others have said before him, the best economic plan is an education plan. And that's why Budget 2025 continues with the investments we've made into our students. After the former PC government cut the small class size cap, we've invested $3 million towards bringing back small class sizes. And in one school year alone, our investments have helped school divisions hire more than 630 educators back into the classroom so children can get that critical one-on-one support. And there are other ways we're helping our youngest learners. Starting in fall 2025, we will be rolling out and piloting our universal early reading screeners to help identify students who may be at risk for future reading difficulties, including reading disabilities like dyslexia. And the full rollout of that program will take place in the fall of 2026. All Manitoba students will be screened for early reading skills for at least 3 years during their kindergarten to grade 4 years, ensuring that no student falls behind and all students have the necessary supports in place to become successful readers and writers. We're also taking actions to strengthen math outcomes for students. We're implementing a financial literacy unit into grade 9 to prepare students for their lives after school. And we've recently announced that we are doubling the amount of time that students spend in grade 9 math, which will help all students across Manitoba succeed in future years. We are also excited to be piloting a renewed science curriculum in schools, grounded in Indigenous knowledge of the natural world within the context of contemporary science education. And that curriculum redevelopment was developed in collaboration with a group of science education experts from around the world. The renewed curriculum equips learners with the skills and competencies necessary to become scientifically literate citizens who understand how science works, are curious and care about the world around them, who think critically about issues and make informed, sustainable decisions. We are helping children learn through our historic $30 million Universal Nutrition Program, which ensures that no child will have to learn on an empty stomach. We are already hearing about increased attendance from school divisions, better engagement in the classroom, and stronger community building. We are also happy to partner with the federal government as they've followed in Manitoba's footsteps by rolling out a national school food program. We know these investments will continue to pay dividends in terms not only of these individual successes of students and improved educational outcomes in our province, but also into our provincial economy for generations to come. Indigenous language education is also a priority of our government, led by the vision of the Premier, who recently made history by delivering his speech in the Chamber on Spirit Bear Day in Cree. To support Indigenous language revitalization and preservation, some key initiatives we're working on include Indigenous language curriculum framework development, teacher recruitment strategies, community program funding, and post-secondary partnerships. We've also introduced Bill 18, which will allow for Indigenous language immersion programming in Manitoba, finally. For the 24-25 school year, our government increased funding for the Treaty Relations Commission of Manitoba to a total of $350,000 to support treaty education training. This funding will continue in 25-26 to help ensure that all teachers and school staff are trained in treaty education. Notre gouvernement appuie l'éducation en français avec des investissements importants. This includes reestablishing the Assistant Deputy Minister position for Le Bureau de l'Éducation française after it was cut by the previous PC government. We're also partnering with key French education partners, including l'Université du Saint-Boniface, the Manitoba Association of School Superintendents, the Manitoba School Boards Association, and the Manitoba Teachers Society to recruit and retain more French language teachers. We're also building 2 DSFM schools, one in Brandon and the other in St. Boniface. This is part of our government's plan to build 11 new schools to support growing enrollment across our province. These schools include a K-8 school in River East Transcona School Division, Devonshire Park, a K-8 school in Pembina Trails School Division at Prairie Point, a K-8 school in Brandon Brandon Southwest, a K-8 school in Seven Oaks in Meadowlands, a new St. Anne High School in the Seine River School Division, a new K-8 school in Bridgewater Lakes as part of the Pembina Trails School Division, a new high school in Neepawa, part of the Beautiful Plains School Division, a new K-8 school in Seven Oaks at Highland Point, and a Winnipeg Northwest High School in the Winnipeg School Division. And unlike the previous government, these schools are all properly budgeted for and will be delivered to Manitobans on time and on budget. But the good news does not end there. There's also many good things to talk about in early learning and childcare. Just a couple of months ago, we announced that we successfully negotiated a 5-year extension with the federal government, providing Manitoba with over $1.9 billion to continue building on the progress we have made and ensuring the sustainability of childcare for families across our province. Through federal and provincial investments, we are increasing the availability of affordable, high-quality childcare and investing in our workforce of early learning and childcare professionals. Last year, together with Canada, we increased the wage grid for ECEs by 2.75%. and provided an additional $10.9 million to facilities to support those wage increases. We continue to expand training opportunities, creating more pathways to becoming an early childhood educator in Manitoba. We've made some huge strides, but we absolutely know that there is much more work to do, which is why this year we are going to launch a provincial workforce strategy to help us recruit and retain more professionals into this important and valued and rewarding career. Manitoba is committed to expanding our childcare system with a space expansion plan that already includes over 16,000 new spaces for children aged 0 to 12 across our province. There are so many exciting projects that we can look forward to announcing in the near future. These announcements are going to build off of the growing number of projects we already have and partnerships that we have with schools, school divisions, in hospitals, in post-secondary institutions, and beyond. So, Honorable Chair, and to the committee, there are a lot of great things happening in education. I am so proud of the work that our government is doing with many of our great partners across this province, with the many school divisions, with the childcare centers, with our First Nations partners, with teachers and educators and students across this province. I very much look forward to the discussion here today at committee, and with that, I will conclude my opening statements. Thank you very much.
We thank the minister for those comments. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement?
I do.
The member for Lac Du Bonny.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, or Yes, Madam Chairperson. Thank you for everyone. Okay, I said corrected, Honorable Chairperson by the Justice Minister already, Honorable Chairperson. So we'll get going on the conversation today. Gives me great pleasure to be here today to ask some questions on behalf of Manitobans in regards to a very important topic of high priority is education here in Manitoba. I too would like to commend and thank the committee room support staff, everyone involved, of course those that are working in behind the scenes to make sure that we're running a tight ship here in committee during estimates. I look forward to many days ahead of us having questions and that taken forward to the Education and Early Childhood Learning Minister. And at this time, I'd also like to thank the department staff and the many individuals that work behind the scenes that definitely work tirelessly to make sure that the government in Manitoba in their education field is trying to put the best foot forward, even though at times I know that the current NDP government throws a few wrenches into the system. And with that, Honorable Chairperson, I'd also like to make mention of the grievance / announcement that the member for Elmwood brought forward on our way out of the chamber today, and that was to not really grieve, but it was sort of a grieve. He commemorated and talked about our recently passing of Councillor Jason Schreier, and so our heartfelt condolences go out to Jason's family and of course his son Jared, of course, I know spent many times with Jason, and of course to the Honorable Ed Schreier and his wonderful wife Lily, and who I've had the pleasure of getting to know for many years, considering that Mr. Schreier was a teacher in the Brokenhead Beausejour area back in the day, and there's been quite a few Ewascos that have been taught by Mr. Schreier. And so with that, I know that it's been a tough go. I know the member for Elmwood brought forward a very compassionate speech today commemorating his good friend Jason. I take a look at and listen to the Education and Early Childhood Learning Minister today on what they're brought forward in regards to their opening speech, and I see many things that we agree on, considering many of the things that the Education Minister is now trying to have her premier take credit for, were a lot of progressive conservative initiatives. Not only ones that were well underway, but ones that were underway but yet paused or stopped by the Canoe government. And it's nice to hear when the Education Minister rattles off some of the projects and some of the initiatives coming forward, either that have been unpaused or continue to go on. It's nice to see them going forward. One of the things that we do not see eye to eye on is the fact on raising taxes on you, the hardworking Manitobans, property owners and renters in this province of ours. As we heard today, we heard the Premier and the Finance Minister point fingers at the school boards and blame them for the fact that this government has cut education funding, but I'm sure we will look to many days ahead of us in regards to some questions and try to get some answers on behalf of Manitobans. So with that, Honourable Chairperson, I'll concede the floor and we'll move on with the 2025-2026 estimates.
We thank the member. Under Manitoba practice, debate on the minister's salary is the last item considered for a department in the Committee of Supply. Accordingly, we shall now defer consideration of line item 16.1A contained in Resolution 16.1. At this time, we invite the minister's staff to join us at the table, and we ask that the minister introduce the staff in attendance. At this time, we ask that the minister introduce the staff in attendance. Sorry, the Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. It's my pleasure to introduce some of the many department staff that we are so lucky to have in education and early childhood learning. All of them contribute to a team that has just produced incredible results for students and for Manitobans, and I'm so very grateful for the chance to get to work with all of them and to learn from them, and for all the help that they have given me in these first few months since I've taken on the role of Minister of the Department. So immediately to my left, we have our Deputy Minister, Brian O'Leary. To his left, we have Andrew Henry, who is our Executive Financial Officer. I believe that's the right, EFO, that's the right title. Beside Andrew, we have Sarah Whiteford, who is our Assistant Deputy Minister for Early Learning and Childcare. And beside Sarah, we have our Acting Assistant Deputy Minister of
No longer acting.
No longer acting?
Yes. No. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I apologize, this is news to me. We have our formal appointed Assistant Deputy Minister of System Performance and Accountability, Jeff Killer. So welcome to the role officially now, Jeff, and Jeff has been doing an absolutely fantastic job in his acting capacity, and I am absolutely thrilled that he has joined, or he has filled that position on a permanent basis.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. According to our Rule 7816, during the consideration of departmental estimates, questioning for each department shall proceed in a global manner, with questions put separately on all resolutions once the official opposition critic indicates that questioning has concluded. The floor is now open for questions. Member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and welcome, of course, to the staff, and congratulations, Mr. Kaler, on being permanent Deputy Minister or Assistant Deputy Minister of System Performance and Accountability. So, and welcome everybody here this afternoon. So I'm going to start off by asking the Education Minister almost estimates question 101. Can she provide more of the organizational structure in addition to what is shown on page 15 of the estimates document?
Okay, the Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you to the critic for the question. I'm happy to put more information on the record about the organizational structure of the department and some of the functions that they perform. So again, we have with us today our Deputy Minister. Below the Deputy Minister, we have two different sort of department services branches. We have the Financial and Administrative Services branch, which is headed by Andrew Henry, who is here with us today, who is our EFO. Another department service that we have is our corporate services. And the Executive Director of the Corporate Services branch is Rebecca Johnston. There are 5 main divisions in the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning, being Student Achievement and Inclusion, whose Assistant Deputy Minister's name is Janet Tomey. We have, thank goodness now, since our government has been elected, we have reinstated the division of the Bureau de l'Éducation Française, and that is headed by the Assistant Deputy Minister by the name of René Dequier. We're very proud to have added that position back into the public service, something that is very needed. Manitoba is so proud to be a bilingual province, and it was a real shame that the previous PC government didn't see the value of bilingualism, didn't see the value of supporting French language education in our province, and cut the Bureau. So we have, again, our government, the NDP government, has reinstated the Bureau de l'Éducation Française division and has hired a new Assistant Deputy Minister in Mr. Dequier. Another division of the department is the Division of Indigenous Excellence in Education, headed by the Assistant Deputy Minister, Jackie Connell. Jackie has an impressive career as an educator and an administrator, and our department is so very lucky to have Jackie have joined the team. She has done some incredible work already. Much of her work can be seen in our legislative agenda that we put forward this session. Many incredible bills that will certainly move Indigenous education forward in this province and also see Indigenous excellence, further Indigenous excellence attained in our province. Pardon me. Another division of the department is System Performance and Accountability, headed by our newly minted Assistant Deputy Minister, Jeff Kaler. And finally, what is also a division of the department, but really occupies about 50% of our mandate and our time and our effort and attention, and that's the Division of Early Learning and Childcare, headed by the Assistant Deputy Minister, Sarah Whiteford, who again also has done incredible work. Her leadership across Canada is noted. Manitoba is currently the co-chair of the FPT of ministers most responsible for childcare. And when I had the pleasure of attending that conference late last year, I got to meet many of the ministers from across Canada and also many of the deputy ministers and assistant deputy ministers across Canada that are working on childcare. And each and every one of the people that I ran into and spoke with in what was at the time an acting role for myself, something I was just starting to sink into and learn about. Everyone I spoke to at that national conference, again, a gathering of all of the federal, provincial, and territorial ministers most responsible for childcare, including their deputy ministers and assistant deputy ministers, everyone had really fantastic things to say about Sarah. And Sarah and her team, with the support of our government, really led the charge in getting Canada back to the table to renegotiate the Canada-wide early childhood program. Did I mention Janet?
No.
Oh, I may have missed, I'm almost out of time. I may have missed the Student Achievement and Inclusion headed by the Assistant Deputy Minister Janet Tomey. If I failed to mention her already, I apologize. She also does incredible work on assessment and curriculum. Incredible folks working in our department.
Thank you. The member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. So what I had asked the minister was, in addition to what's on page 15 of the estimates book, if she could go through some additional of the positions and also the names attached to each. And at this time, I would also like to congratulate Assistant Deputy Minister Diquier on her appointment. I'd also like to say that in addition to what the minister, or to correct the record, I guess, a little bit, is the fact that we did have, you know, under our previous government, we still had Assistant Deputy Minister Janet Tomey, who was proficient in French language and had still worked with the Francophone school divisions, and of course everything in regards to the French immersion and Francophone sections of Manitoba education. So back to the original question, I would like the minister to talk about the organizational structure that is in addition to on what is in page 15 with those names as well.
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Something I failed to mention in my opening statement, perhaps, something that I think is important in spaces like this, when we're having meetings, when we're identifying ourselves, is pronouns. So I use the pronouns she, her. I think pronouns are important. Are important for individuals. They're important for respectful dialogue. And I don't believe that the member opposite did this intentionally, but they did, in the interest of correcting the record, for accuracy and for respect. Renee Dequier, who is the Assistant Deputy Minister in the Bureau, uses he, him pronouns, not she, her pronouns. So just for accuracy. And again, I don't suspect that the member opposite did that with any intent. That being said, I think it's also very important. So just to correct the record. So again, it gives me great pleasure to further highlight some of the incredible folks that work in the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning, and to read their names and their roles onto the permanent record forever and all time. So, again, there are 5 main divisions in the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning. We can start with, as it appears, sort of from left to right in the organizational chart that's printed at page 15 of the estimates book. So we'll start with the Division of Student Achievement and Inclusion, again headed by Assistant Deputy Minister Janet Tomey. So one of the other executive staff, some of the other executive staff that work with Janet in student achievement and inclusion include, we have Rhonda Shaw, who is the Executive Director of the Learning and Outcomes Branch. We also have Alan Hawkins, who is the Executive Director of Inclusion Support and Services Branch. And we know that the work that they do is so important in learning and outcomes. They do the work of developing curriculum, of working on assessments, which are so important for students and for families. Again, Alan's work is also very important in the role of inclusion. Inclusion is something that we think about every day in the department, with the ideal of having every student in class all day, every day is the goal. Of course, we know that inclusion means different things for different students and different families and different schools. But again, we're guided by the underlying principle that every child matters. So next we can work on the Bureau d'Éducation Française, again headed by the ADM René Dequier. I can highlight the Executive Director of the Bureau, whose name is Cassie Assier. And again, And again, in that branch, they do such incredible and important work of promoting French language education here in Manitoba, something that is somewhat unique to Manitoba, something that we should be so proud of both French language education and also French immersion education. We have such a proud tradition in our province. I myself am a benefactor of French immersion education. I know many members of our caucus and many members of the Assembly have also benefited from French language instruction here in our province. So moving on to Indigenous Excellence in Education, headed by the Assistant Deputy Minister Jackie Connell. We do have a director that works with Jackie, and that is someone by the name of Sarah Gazan. And again, the work that they are producing out of the Indigenous Excellence Division is absolutely transformational and really work that's leading the way across Canada. Moving on to system performance and accountability, I'd like to highlight Tina Choi Pol, who is the Director of Education Funding Branch. I'd like to highlight Faisal Islam, who is the Acting Executive Director of the Governance and Policy Branch. I'd like to highlight Stacey Hay, who's the Executive Director of Teacher Certification and Standards. From the Early Learning and Child Care Division, I'd love to highlight Jennifer Faldner.
The minister's time has expired. The member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and absolutely I'll start off by apologizing to the minister for using incorrect pronouns for her, and again apologizing to Monsieur Dequier, who is now the Assistant Deputy Minister in the department, for using the wrong pronouns for him. So, but again, congratulations on your appointment. I will ask the minister to continue on listing the different positions and the names, but I'd also like her to list off how many political staff she has in the Department of Education as well.
Would the member for Lac Du Bonnet please repeat the last part of the question? Just there was a, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Member for Lac Du
Okay,
Bonnet.
so I can go? Okay, thanks, Honorable Chairperson. So last part of the questions. So first of all was for the minister to continue on the positions and the names that she was going down. She just ran out of time. And the second part was how many political staff does she have in the Department of Education?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you to the member opposite for allowing me the time to, again, read some of the names and positions of some of the incredible folks that work in our department. I really appreciate the opportunity to finish where we had left off. So again, we were where we had left off was listing some additional positions in the Division of Early Learning and Childcare, headed by the Assistant Deputy Minister of Sarah Whiteford. So again, where I had left off was I spoke about Jennifer Faldner, who is the Executive Director of the Policy and Planning Branch. I'd love to acknowledge Susan Emerson, who's the Director of our Provincial Operations Branch. Oh, and I would love to highlight Neka Anyaoku Onyenekwu. And again, I apologize if I failed to pronounce that properly. NECA is the Executive Director of Funding and Financial Assistance. She's also an incredibly warm and upbeat person, and so I apologize to her directly if I have failed to pronounce her name correctly. I'm embarrassed about that. I will just say very briefly, just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I'm not sure, time flies in this space. Very recently, it was the week of the early childhood educator here in Manitoba. And during that week, I was very lucky to accompany ADM Whiteford to the early childhood learning division offices downtown here and get to meet some of the incredible folks that work in that division of the department. So many of the folks that work in the department as fantastic public servants have the lived experience of working as early childhood educators and have worked in the sector, some of them for decades. And it was just such a privilege and an honor to get to share space with them and to get to celebrate not just what they do as public servants working within the department to expand access to affordable, high quality childcare for families here in Manitoba, which is really important work, but also to really acknowledge the fact of, again, the work that they've done in this sector directly working with children as early childhood educators here in our system. And then they bring that knowledge and that passion that they have for kids into our department to allow and to support the work that we're doing as government to really quite rapidly, and dare I say radically, expand childcare space here in Manitoba in partnership with the federal government. Their work is so valued, and it was, again, such a privilege to get to go visit with them in their place of work. So I am going to go back to, I would like to mention one other department staff that I failed to mention from the Student Achievement and Inclusion Division, and that is Allison Potter, who works on continuous improvement. Her work is also very, very important. So those are just some of the, some further information on the organizational structure. Happy to follow up with the member if he has further questions. Oh, I didn't get to everyone. I missed one person. I'm all over the place here today. Thank you to the committee for your patience. I did fail to read out the name of one of our other executive directors in the Early Learning and Childcare Division, and that's the Executive Director of Capital and Space Expansion, Signe Hansen. And it's very important, and I thank the support staff that I have with me here today, because again, all of the roles, every person in the department performs a important and pivotal role. Signe, in particular, as the Executive Director of Capital and Space Expansion, has a very, very important job, and she leads an excellent team. And I cannot, and Manitobans cannot thank them enough for the work that they are doing in partnership with the federal government in rapidly and radically expanding access to childcare here in our province, and really developing, analyzing, and getting off the ground the many, many capital space expansion projects that we have right across our province. So Thank you to the staff for reminding me about Signe, and thank you very much to Signe herself for the work that she does. Running out of time here to answer the second part of the member's question, and again, thank him for repeating the question for us. I currently have 4 political staff in the office.
Member for Lactabani?
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm going to concede some time to the member for Tyndall Park till 4:15.
The member for Tyndall Park?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Lactabani for allowing me some time here this afternoon, as well as the Minister and all the departmental staff for being here this afternoon and answering our questions. After I introduced Bill 225, there was a policy directive that the Minister had announced on the exact same lines. I would argue quite vague, doesn't have everything in writing that she shares in the House. She explains is similar to the bill. The policy directive does not include very specific details such as informing parents, such as ensuring that the schools follow up with the findings of universal screening. Now, on April 15th, the legislation passed second reading unanimously. Many members of the government, in fact, spoke in favor of the legislation. Since then, I've had many people reach out to me. We're talking doctors, speech pathologists, teachers, parents of students, some from Dyslexia Canada. I know the minister mentioned Dyslexia Canada earlier. They would like to see Bill 225 go to committee. I am more than happy to share some of these correspondence with the minister if she would like. I'm more than happy to help arrange some of these meetings so she can hear directly from them if she would prefer. There are currently 26 people signed up to speak at committee, and members around this table know that's a high number of people who tend to come out to speak at committee. I am asking the minister to call Bill 225 to committee to ensure that the voices of those who help contribute towards this legislation, again, that came out before the policy directive, have the opportunity to share their thoughts, their ideas, their concerns with MLAs. And I too, like the minister said earlier, I would love to be able to work collaboratively on this. I actually had the opportunity to do this with my colleague from Concordia here as well. I'd love the opportunity, but she has to include me in the conversation then. Will she bring the bill to committee?
Just as a point of order, Bill 225 is currently before the House, and we can't speak about things that are in the House during estimates. So could the member from Tyndall Park please rephrase your question to tie it into the estimates? The member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and I can certainly try my best to bring it back to estimates here. I think a big part of why we hold estimates is so that MLAs can ask questions of the minister and the departmental staff to ensure that, in this case, education across the province is widely understood. And I think that's what a big part of what all the work is that we're doing in the House. So I guess the bottom line of the question to the minister and the department is, does she believe that committee is an important step of legislation? We'll keep it very vague. And if so, would she recommend that legislation that has quite a few, in this case 26 members signed up to speak, should go to committee because that's the democratic thing to do?
While we do appreciate the member from Tyndall Park trying to bring it back, unfortunately, we really need you to frame it in terms of the estimates. Member from Tyndall Park.
I'd like to ask the minister if it is costing her money to send Bill 225 to committee.
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. And thank you to the member opposite for the question. There is no budget line in estimates to send bills to committee. So no, there is no cost to the department, I suppose, to send bills to committee. I can assure the member and all Manitobans that certainly the cost of running a committee would never be a consideration for whether or not we would move a bill through committee or not. The committee process is an important one, as the member noted, and it's somewhat unique to our process here in Manitoba. And it is an important opportunity to speak to stakeholders and to Manitobans and to hear voices that contribute to or are concerned about the particular issue at hand. I'm always happy to meet with those affected. Very happy to have very recently attended the Manitoba Reading Association conference, where the announcement about our universal reader screener was given a resounding applause. And it's work that, despite the member's suggestion, was initiated by the department well in advance of the introduction of her bill, again, which is not the subject of estimates here today. But the work of the department began as early as October of 2024. So well in advance of Bill 225. Again, I applaud the member for her work that she does on behalf of her constituents. It was also a commitment that was made in our throne speech. So any suggestion that that this is piggybacking off of the member's bill is simply inaccurate. It's interesting timing. It's certainly a coincidence, and coincidences do happen. But that's certainly, the timing of the announcements was certainly nothing more than coincidental. And again, there's certainly ample of evidence through the department to prove what I'm suggesting here at committee today. Again, always happy to hear from those that are advocates on this matter. I've met recently with the department, with Dyslexia Canada, with representatives from Dyslexia Canada, both local representatives and national representatives, and we met on May 6th. And I know the department has met with them previously and on many occasions. And we applaud their work and we thank their work, their advocacy work that they do in supporting learners across Canada and certainly here in Manitoba. We all want the same things, which is improved outcomes for students here in Manitoba, for greater success and achievement when it comes to reading, which is so foundational to all learning going forward. So again, really appreciate the work of Dyslexia Canada, who we met with on May 6th. I've also, in my role as an MLA, have recently met with a constituent and a volunteer of Dyslexia Canada, attended the meeting with them, and I was more than happy to sit with them and listen to the challenges that that this constituent's child had faced in the education system. It was there were some heart-wrenching stories that that I heard in that case, and in other conversations that I've had with other colleagues of mine who have also met with constituents about this very important issue. And it is hopefully a nonpartisan issue. I'm happy to work with the member opposite. I was not invited to a bill briefing for Bill 225. Going forward, I'd be happy to participate in things like that. Sure. Happy to work with the member opposite on this matter going forward. Again, this is something that should not be political. I believe that all of us here on this committee here today would agree that improving reading outcomes for students is important, providing supports to students is important. I will add to the record, just before I run out of the time, that I do not believe our announcement was vague. More details to come.
The minister's time has expired. The member for Tinto Park.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and I do appreciate the Minister's comments, and I would love to take her up on that, and ideally we can work together and perhaps bring forward changes to the legislation, because either way, these big changes in our education system should be put into legislation. So perhaps we can do that together. Legislation or amendments can be brought forward at the committee stage. So I would encourage, if there are things I can do on my end to continue having the bill move forward, I would very much appreciate that opportunity. For my last question, I know that a lot of funds go into the building of a brand new school. This is not an easy thing to go about. Previously, there was a school plan to be built in Tyndall Park. I know the minister is aware of this. We've talked about this. And I have since then heard that the school was no longer going to be built. And more recently, I heard from a reliable source that the school, in fact, was going to be built in Tyndall Park. So I think I'm looking for some clarity. Are there plans to build a new school in Tyndall Park? And if so, is there a timeline? Is there a budget set out for it? And when?
The Honorable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you to the member for the question. Just very briefly, because you mentioned it, so sort of building off the last question when we're talking about the universal screeners, the member opposite mentioned or stated that legislation here is necessary. And speaking very generally, so I'm not speaking here about your bill, Bill 225 in particular, but just speaking very generally, I would disagree with that notion. Legislation is one of the tools at our disposal, at the department's disposal, at the sector's disposal. But legislation is not always necessary. Legislation can be cumbersome. Legislation can not always address the needs. And it's certainly legislation does not move quickly. Legislation runs the risk of being stalled by the opposition, as we've seen many important bills that our government has put forward this session has happened to those bills. So in this case, with all due respect, we did not feel that legislation was necessary. Legislation is not necessary in the development of most curriculum and policy in the education sector. And if we had to strike legislation every single time that we were issuing a policy directive or a new piece of curriculum to the education sector, I fear that education in this province would ground to a halt. So we did not feel that we needed to introduce legislation, which is why we moved forward with the announcement that we made on April 11th of 2025, announcing our universal early reading tools. We wanted to do this as soon as was practically possible. We know that the upcoming school year is about to start in September. So we thought this was an important time in April to make this announcement so that schools had the remaining time that they had in the month of April and the time that they have in May and June to confer with their school boards, to confer with their senior administration, to confer with the department, and get everything in line so that this pilot program can be launched on time and effectively and comprehensively in September of 2025. So again, legislation is very important in many regards, but again, it's only one tool that we have as policy leaders here in the province, and legislation is not always necessary. What is necessary is action, and I believe that our government took some great action in moving forward with the announcement that we made on April the 11th. So to get to the question about the school in Tyndall Park, thank you. So yes, so my understanding is that my staff reached out to the member for Tyndall Park staff on April the 22nd after this issue was raised during question period. And to clarify some of what we had announced previously. So we can confirm, happy to further confirm today during estimates that absolutely there is a new high school being built in the constituency of Tyndall Park. We understand that the current plans would have that school built on Commercial Drive, which is north of Inkster.
Yeah.
Yep. We currently have an opening target date of 2029. We are confident that this school will be delivered on time. We are having great progress on the initial 4 schools that we've announced so far. I can confirm that that school will be a grade 9 to 12 school. We're aiming for a capacity of roughly 500 to 600. Again, we're happy to work with both the Department of Public Service Delivery and with the school division, with Winnipeg School Division, as we move towards the planning and design phase of that project to make sure that we're meeting the needs of your constituents and of the community. And we have been working quite closely with Winnipeg School Division in the last number of months and the last year and a half, I suppose, to right-size that plan and to make sure that we are addressing the needs of all of the students in the Winnipeg School Division and in that surrounding area. The planning of these schools is something that we take very seriously, and it's very important to take your time to do it correctly, so that again, students' needs are being addressed.
Thank you. The member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. So the minister mentioned the 4 political staff. I'd like to ask her to provide the names of those political staff and their positions.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you to the member opposite to the critic for allowing me an opportunity to highlight some of the incredible political staff that I have the great fortune of working with every day. So with us here today, in the role of Director of Ministerial Affairs, we have Rylan Ramnareis. Rylan began in this role and with the department before I did. He began in June of 2024, and he worked alongside our friend, the dearly departed Nello Altamare. So I've had the great pleasure of getting to know Rylan and getting to work with him and have his support. I feel very privileged to be able to work with him. And I want to extend my condolences to him. And this is something I didn't do previously, but really to the whole team, to Brian in particular and to Rylan. It was a real challenge that we went through in losing our previous minister, Minister Nello Altamare, who tragically passed away earlier this year. Again, it's been the honor of my lifetime to take on this role, but frankly speaking, it was a bit of a challenge taking on this role. And a challenge, I know, for both Brian and Rylan in particular, who both worked very closely with Minister Altamare in his time in his role. So I sort of, for lack of a better word, inherited both Brian and Rylan. And so I wish them, you know, I give them my sincere condolences that they were able to continue on doing that work during that transition, considering the close personal relationships that I know that they had with the minister. And for supporting me and welcoming me with open arms and assisting me through that transition as the new minister in this portfolio. So thank you very much, Rylan, and also to you, Brian. So other political staff that I have as of February 28th of 2025, which is in and around when I took on this role formally. We also have Alexandra Koslock, who is the Special Assistant to the Minister, or also known as the SA. We have Nicole Dvorak, who is the Executive Assistant to the Minister. Again, I work with them both every day. They are both incredible, strong, smart women who I enjoy working with very, very much, and I'm very grateful to both of them for the support that they offer me every day. And finally, no longer political staff, but just in case you have questions, because it is in the estimates binder, is also listed Devin Kelly. Devin worked as the executive assistant until March 18th of 2025. Devin was the executive assistant to Minister Altamare and worked very closely with Minister Altamare, both in the Department of Education, but also helped support him in his role as a member of a legislative assembly in the riding of Transcona. So again, after Minister Altamare's tragic passing, Devin took the opportunity to transition into a new role. So he is no longer executive assistant to the minister. But again, I thank him greatly I also, again, lack of a better term, inherited Devin when I took on this role in an acting capacity. I had the great benefit of having Devin's support for many months while I served as the acting minister. And again, I want to offer Devin my sincere condolences in the passing of our friend Nello Altamari, because I know that, again, Devin worked very, very closely with the minister for many, many years, including, I believe, when Minister Altamari was in opposition. So Devin had a very long history of working with Minister Altamari, and I know that the loss was very great for him. I thank him for all of the support that he offered, not only to me, but to Minister Altamari, and I wish Devin all the best in his new role. Thank you.
Did you touch on Nicole?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, member for Lactabani.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. So the minister mentioned earlier that she had 4 political staff. I'm going to look just for sort of a head nod or yes or no. That way it's a quicker answer. So Devin was done at the end of March? Okay. So just for clarification for those hundreds of Manitobans that are watching from home today, so the answer was yes, Devin. And again, condolences go out to the whole team who worked with Nello, and I mean many of us on all sides of the aisle had the great pleasure of working with him. He was a very classy gentleman that I know that he served in his role as Education and Early Childhood Learning Minister quite well, and we had many conversations when I was his critic for a little bit, but then previous to that, when I was Minister of Education, he was my critic. So I am going to ask a sort of a 2-part question. So do you now only have, so to the minister, do you only have now 3 political staff in the department? And if you can clarify that in a little bit. And then on top of that, 3 political staff for sure, possibly another one, which you're going to get to that answer right away. What are their salaries as well now?
Just a reminder to the member for Lactabani to direct questions through the chair. Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you to the member for the opportunity to clarify. So yes, so currently as Minister, I have 3 political staff, Rylan Ramrace as DOMA, Director of Ministerial Affairs, Alexandra Koslock as Special Assistant, or SA, and Nicole Dvorak as Executive Assistant, or EA. I believe, to answer the member's question about their salary, that is all public information. All three of those appointments were done by order in council, so that information is available publicly. Furthermore, I could refer the committee to page 37 of the Book of Estimates, and there you will have information regarding our budget for executive support. So their salaries would further be detailed on that line item.
Member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I thank the Minister for the question. So through you, Honorable Chairperson, to the Minister, we know that presently Winnipeggers and soon to be many Manitobans are going to be receiving their education property tax bills in the mail. I'd like to know any information that the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning can give to the on the topic of property tax offset grant.
The Honorable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And thank you to the member opposite for the question. We could reasonably anticipate this question. And to all the Manitobans that are listening, please don't get me wrong. Affordability for Manitobans is of top of mind for our government. Our budget 2025 is evidence of that, with 25 amazing ways to save, including the homeowners affordability tax credit, which we know will benefit the vast number of Manitobans who pay property taxes here in Manitoba. We know that it will provide affordability. But the funding of schools and school property taxes are only one element of our education system. Every day I wish for questions from the members opposite about student outcomes and achievements, about our nutrition program, about math, and about literacy, which the member from Tyndall Park was here just moments ago asking about. And I appreciate her work on literacy. When it comes to education, the member opposite shows his hand. And that is, when it comes to education here in Manitoba, the opposition, it's all about dollars and cents. That's how they see students here in Manitoba, as if funding education is a burden. In preparing for this meeting today, I had the great benefit of reviewing Hansard and reviewing some of the comments that my predecessor, the late great Nello Altamari, made last year during this estimates process that he was able to attend back in May 29th. I'm so grateful for some of the wisdom he put on the record. So grateful for Hansard for allowing us this opportunity to have Nello's words of wisdom here before us. And there was something I read and I underlined this morning. And this is the voice of Nello Altamari speaking. We, when he says we, he means the New Democrats. We don't see education as a cost. We see it as an investment in the future. And I think that's really important to reflect on about the investments that we're making in education, including a $30 million universal nutrition program, which is going to create lasting outcomes, not just for individual students in our province who are able to learn with some food in their belly, but it's also going to mean a great deal for our economy and for creating the economy that we want to see here in the future, supporting students in the classroom. So again, funding education is important. And there's two ways to fund education in our province. One is through funding grants from the province, and the other is school divisions who are able to levy local education property taxes. A point that was clarified on the record earlier today by both our Premier and our Minister of Finance. The member opposite earlier in his opening statement referred to that as blame. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Premier and the Minister of Finance were not blaming school divisions. They're simply correcting misinformation that is put on the record daily by the opposition, that the NDP has raised property taxes for Manitobans. It's simply not true. These are decisions made at the elected school board level in consultation with their communities and in addressing the needs of their students. And again, I mentioned earlier, there's two ways that schools receive funding here in the province, and that's either A, directly through operational grants from the Department of Education, or through taxes levied locally at the school division level. And I would like to put on the record that the previous government failed on both accounts, which is why school divisions and Manitobans are facing what they're facing today. The previous government failed to fund education directly, and they also failed to allow school divisions to levy local taxes. This has put schools and students at a disadvantage here in Manitoba, and that is work that we are
The
working
minister's
to
time
correct.
is up. The member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And you know, when the minister's having a bit of a tough go answering the question, you know, it's getting to be a little personal. So we're just gonna sidestep that and wait for the minister hopefully to give us the answer on property tax offset grants, which I had asked. But also in her own words, she said that the school divisions had to raise taxes. So they had to raise taxes. I'll ask the Education Early Childhood Learning Minister, why did they have to raise taxes to some of them double-digit figures?
The Honourable Minister for Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I regret the member opposite feels that my answer was personal. I think that the record would reveal and Hansard will reveal that there was absolutely nothing personal whatsoever in my answer. My answer perhaps was partisan, and rightfully so. I'm putting facts on the record. If he is embarrassed of or doesn't like to be reminded of the record of his government, then perhaps he should have reconsidered this line of work. However, it is my job not only to serve Manitobans in this role as Minister of Education and ensure that schools are properly funded, that schools are resourced, that students are receiving the resources they need, but also a large part of my work and of our team's work, unfortunately, is undoing the damage caused by 7.5 years of a PC government that failed to prioritize education, failed to prioritize students, failed to prioritize families, and failed to prioritize their communities. So a lot of the work that we have to do is undoing their record. And so if the member finds that me bringing up the record of his government, his previous failed, cold, callous government, is personal, then I think that I would have to respectfully disagree, or perhaps we might have to define the word personal, because I don't think we're both using it in the same regard. To answer the question more substantively on the issue of property tax offset grant, I'm happy to inform the committee that as of the 24-25 budget, that the property tax offset grant is no longer a separate grant and that it's been rolled into base, which means that that those dollars are still being offered and will continue to be so in perpetuity as part of our base. So no longer a separate grant. Again, the member opposite asked why students, pardon me, I misspoke, why school divisions have raised their mill rate. And again, to correct the record, not all school divisions, in fact, have raised taxes. It's important to know, and something the members opposite fail to acknowledge. They would prefer to mislead Manitobans and put misinformation on the record. But this was an assessment year. So every house in Manitoba was reassessed this year. And some of the increases that we're seeing on our tax bills are due to the increase of the assessed value of your home. It has nothing to do with tax increases or mill rate increases or the funding of schools or the funding of school divisions whatsoever. So that's important to note. And when it comes to blame, again, our government does not blame school divisions for the position that they are in. There is only one organization that we blame, and that is the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba, who for 7.5 years not only did not increase funding to schools, but effectively decreased funding to schools by not keeping up with the rate of inflation. This year, for 25-26, we are very proud that our funding of schools announcement absolutely kept pace with the rate of inflation, with no school division in Manitoba receiving an operational grant of less than 1%. So every school division in Manitoba next year will see an increase in their operational funding. And that funding is going to go to support students in the classroom, making sure that they have more one-on-one time with their educators, making sure that they have a universal school nutrition program that they can rely on when times are tough, and making sure that we are investing in small class sizes. So if there is blame to be had for the situation that school divisions are in, it is to the member opposite in his time as Minister of Education under the leadership of Heather Stephenson and Brian Pallister before her, and their failure to prioritize education funding.
Member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and here we go. So the Minister of Education partially answered my question, and I guess the question that I have for her is the fact that school divisions are increasing their education property taxes because they're not properly funded. It's not by the historical misinformation that the education minister puts on the record. It's the fact that this current NDP government, Canoe government, is underfunding schools. And so then school divisions are increasing property taxes. And to correct what the minister had put on the record in addition to that is I said, and she can check answered tomorrow or later tonight when it comes out, I did say that some school divisions are hitting double-digit property tax increases. So I agree with her that part of this issue is the fact of this year is a reassessment year of properties. And this is something where, you know, possibly, as she put on the record, maybe she could sit down with the finance minister and give him a little bit of a tutorial on how this works, because they should have seen the property reassessment coming this year. And so it's unfortunate that Winnipeggers and soon to be other Manitobans are going to be receiving their education property tax bills in the mail, and they're going to be experiencing sticker shock. I guess really if the NDP government was properly funding education, you would not be seeing these property tax increases. And so I would like to see the education minister take some responsibility and accountability for this. And if it's not her and her department, I would like to see definitely the finance minister answer some questions. I know that we on the opposition side are receiving many concerns and calls and emails and property tax bills that are showing the increases. And so we know that, you know, life is getting less affordable here in Manitoba. It doesn't matter really how the premier is doing TikTok videos and whatever else trying to say otherwise, but real Manitobans are experiencing the increase in various different things, costs of living and food inflation and those types of things. And so now Manitobans are experiencing through education property tax increases, solely on the fact that the education minister and her finance minister are not funding education properly. I'd like to ask the minister, is the government, through you, Honorable Chairperson, is your government going to cap the double-digit increases school boards can now impose? Or what type of, to take a word from the education minister, what type of predictable funding are school divisions going to be seeing in the next year or two? Because this isn't very predictable.
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. And again, similar to previous questions asked by the members opposite, they show their hand. They show their hand and their MO when it comes to education, which was evidenced by their time in office, which is picking fights with school divisions and blaming school divisions and who knows, maybe eliminating school divisions altogether. Really, that was their, as far as I can tell, that was the only education plan that the previous PC government had under the leadership of the member opposite during his time as the Minister of Education. The only education plan they had was to get rid of school divisions, to less democracy, less local participation, less voices at the table, less funding for schools. And of course, I'm talking about Bill 64, which I've said on the record more than one time is perhaps one of the most hard fought against, if that's a term I can use, piece of legislation we may have ever seen here in Manitoba. And I'll remind Manitobans when we're talking about affordability that under the leadership of the member from Lac du Bonny, 1.5 million of your taxpayer dollars went to consultants and to advertising to promote Bill 64, again, which was resoundingly rejected by not just the opposition, and thank goodness for them and the great work that they did during that time, but resoundingly from the community. It was really a community effort that defeated Bill 64. So on this side of the House, we believe in democracy. We believe in locally elected school boards. We believe in the work of trustees and the role that they serve in supporting the needs of students and families in their communities. And we will continue to work with school divisions, the Manitoba School Boards Association, and the community to make sure that schools are properly funded and are serving the needs of their community. The member suggested that our government has not properly funded education, and I couldn't disagree more strongly. Of course, to the committee, there is so much catch-up to do. There's 7.5 years of catch-up, 7.5 years of cuts and starvation to the education system that we are trying desperately to correct. 107, in just our first 2 years of government, the first 2 budgets, $170 million increase to schools' operational funding. This year was 3.6% lift. Let me remind Manitobans that inflation last year was only at 1% here in Manitoba. 3.6% lift to schools this year. Let's talk about the record of the opposition. I talk about the catch-up we're playing. I talk about the damage that we are trying to undo. So again, this year, during a year of 1% inflation, we gave school divisions on average a 3.6% lift. Let's look at the record of the members opposite, and let's look realistically at what sort of catch-up we're playing. 2017-2018, a 1.1% lift under the leadership of the members opposite. 2018-2019, a 0.7% lift under the leadership of the members opposite. 2019-2020, 0.5. In 2020-21, another 0.5. And then miraculously, right before the election, they all of a sudden prioritized the funding of education. And I will give them credit for the funding lifts that they provided in those last years. But again, it's something we saw across government in an unsuccessful effort to buy the votes of Manitobans, and which unfortunately left Manitobans and left our government with a nearly $2 billion deficit that we are working every day in collaboration with the Minister of Finance, the excellent Minister of Finance, to dig Manitobans out of every single day.
The minister's time has expired. Member for Lac Du Bonny.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. So in regards to, I'm glad the minister came to a little bit of a realization that that's education funding under the previous PC government was, to quote another, pretty good education minister, was astronomical. The largest in over, 40 years of education funding was done under the PC government, and here the minister pats herself on the back for the last couple of years, which, again, if it was such a large amount, then again, the school divisions are raising taxes to the tune of over double-digit numbers. And so that's one thing for, and I will correct the record, it's actually not the Progressive Conservative team that is blaming school divisions. It's actually the Canoe government, the Premier himself and the Finance Minister. It is actually the Canoe government that is underfunding education. And it's the Canoe government, as I said, the Premier himself, the Finance Minister, and now even the Education Minister that are absolutely blaming school divisions for these funding increases. And so under the former Progressive Conservative plan was to eliminate education taxes off of property. And matter of fact, in 23-24 budget, I believe we were up close to about 88-12. I know that the education minister appreciates history and those types of things, and I know that holding the position as of a education and early childhood learning minister is quite the honorable and privilege to have had or have in this great province of ours. And so I encourage the minister, if she hasn't done so already, to take a look at how the initial education property taxes were supposed to be set up in the province of ours, and where they went from to where they are today.
The hour being 5 o'clock, the committee will rise.